and go for it.
In this video, I'm going to share with you how to make an ambitious film from start to finish, showing you all the secrets it takes to make a $0 movie look like a high-budget one.
Good movies have good tripods.
And if you don't believe me, watch till the very end and you can watch the project we ended up making.
So Genesis, when I say when's, we're going to start back here. Okay, fall. The budget for this film was around $100. This looks so sick. I'll break down every single thing, part of that later on in the film, but let's get into what we actually shot. Do it better!
Is it okay if I switch hands with my bow? Or is that gonna look f***ing weird?
The first thing to talk about is creating a story around one character or one concept that is seemingly larger. Creating a big universe, small world. Yeah, it's kind of fun. By doing big universe, small world is first to look at the environments that are around you that you can use to make the world feel larger or cooler. The cheapest element ever to use is a forest. Everyone usually has some sort of natural green space near them, and usually they're free to shoot in and no one really cares. So we found this little forested area right behind our house. The nice thing about the snow is that it's a giant reflector. So when it comes to like looking for like good lighting, everything's kind of nice. Therefore, axing an entire job duty to the run and gun filmmaking process. This might be like the worst shot ever or something really insane. How do you feel?
Let's try.
All right, that's the spirit. Whatever jobs you can kind of cut in the process and take more of an indie documentary approach to your narrative will accelerate the entire film. So this setup is a great one to talk about. We shot this chase scene. It's like one of the opening scenes of the film. I was on a one-wheel. Action! Oh, keep going, keep going, keep going. This looks great. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Is it?
Yeah, so this is a wide shot. So here's this wild shot of one wheel kind of shooting from the side, chasing Jackie going through the forest with trees whipping by. I later on in post-production added more trees into the shot to make it feel more dynamic. So easy way to make a lot of energy in a scene is just have a moving tracking shot with foreground elements. And if those foreground elements don't exist, you can just duplicate ones that are already in the shot and then put them in the foreground. The rule of thumb that I've always played by is that the most extreme elements to shoot in are typically some of the best looking ones. Basically any epic is shot in an extreme environment. Now it's not to go out and shoot in some of the most hardest things just for the sake of the fact that it's hard, but if you're capturing these big, wide, expansive shots, typically difficult environments read the best.
I mean, how are we gonna run on ground that's straight up and down?
I mean, I would hate to ask you to do this.
But I'm going to ask you to do it.
Well, I would stay on the road part with the one wheel.
Of course you would.
I would also argue that these beautiful canvases, while seemingly nice, the creative process is slowed down exponentially when you are in environments that are not comfortable. Gloves are overrated. I think socks kind of conquer them here. So the concept of this film was sort of a improvisation slash narrative approach where I had shot lists and ideas in my head. I actually storyboarded the entire first episode of this series. Comes up, second body's there, walks up, goes to investigate. Can you hear me? But what I wanted to do was also make it a collaborative approach where we just wandered and found frames. So blending both narrative and documentary filmmaking together to create sort of a no low expectation creative space, which is fun, I think in theory, but can become frustrating when you're not getting the right trees, the right spaces. Like in this video here, the space wasn't looking exactly what we were looking for, and we had to kind of reposition and repurpose a lot of things. Action. Let's talk about gear, because that's something really exciting about this video. Camera, we shot on the Sony FX3. On the mic, I use the Sennheiser MKE400. with the DJI Ronin S2 as the gimbal, and a variable ND, I think just like the Peter McKinnon mist filter. And then I also use the Freewell filter system that they have, the interchangeable system.
Keep going. Okay, fall. This streak filter looks so f***ing cool.
I think one of the big overseen things when you're shooting stuff on your own is audio, and I always try and prioritize it with the rigging that I'm using, because when you go into post-production, it is so much easier to either have a scratch track or actual clean audio that you can layer onto versus starting from the base, which is most films that I do. I usually create a whole soundscape within Premiere Pro. I'll do all the audio throughout that. But with this setup, I had the mic capturing some super clean audio, and it worked really well. Whether it was her feet crushing through the snow, a stick breaking, and when you start doing Foley and ambience, there are a lot of natural elements that you just won't see in the visual, so therefore you won't even think about. It's picking up everything, every little nuance within the sound, and I found this microphone did a great job.
The YouTube video about this is like, Midjourney AI helped me make a short film. Yeah. But then I started finding out that Midjourney was actually predicting the future of my life. So then you're gonna be looking, and then I'm gonna be like, yeah, and then
here we are blocking out how we're gonna shoot this one like crazy moment where an arrow goes flying into a tree, and this is a VFX element partnered with a practical. A way to work on making your films is to take a look at what Hollywood films are doing and kind of reverse engineer it. So for this, I looked at some of my favorite movies and looked at, okay, the best sci-fi movies out there mix practical with visual effects, and especially when you're shooting on a low budget, the blend of those two things is really going to push everything further for you, because having crazy wild VFX, you can't afford, and having crazy wild practical, you probably can't afford. But the blend between those two actually is sometimes the cheapest solution.
Yeah, maybe it like hits, you're like, oh fuck, and you start.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, I'm just processing.
How would it feel going down this little hill here?
Horrible, but I'll try.
There's a clearing, like there's like a clear path.
This way? Oh my God, I'm gonna fall. Okay.
Yeah, it would work if you did. And then you're gonna go down and that way, okay?
Okay.
And go for it.
This next sequence I want to talk about is the scene where Jackie comes running out over a hill and she gets an arrow shot through her. This is the jankiest setup I've ever done on a film set. Basically, it was a practical, again, mixed with a visual effect to create this really epic shot. Three, 2, 1, go for it. And then for her to do this arrow effect where she gets an arrow shot through her, it's a blend between sound effects and visual effects matched with practical. Another element to really amplify anything that you're working on is always sound effects. So if you can't afford to do a crazy visual effect, whether it's a spaceship flying over or even as simple as doing an animated title, you can always throw sound effects in and they can justify stuff without actually seeing them.
Eat your heart out, Jennifer Lawrence.
I've always wanted to do a Hunger Games, Matt.
I think when they filmed the first Hunger Games, they didn't have a trailer. I think they just pulled up in the director's car.
Really?
Yeah, I think they just like...
Are you lying?
You don't need a lot. You just need what fits in the frame. Remember, we are frame makers, not necessarily full-blown world makers. So figure out what fits in that frame and only live within that. Once you start trying to build stuff outside of that frame, that's where budgets can really explode. But if you just focus what's in your 2, 3, 5, and even shooting widescreen can save some budget because you don't even have to fill the top and bottom of your frame, you were able to push your budget way further, which is the next thing I want to talk about, which is wardrobe.
Beauty.
When Beauty gets her wig on.
Beauty's gotta get her wig on.
Wardrobe is one of the key features that can push your film so much further. It can be as simple as putting a cowboy hat onto a main character, giving it more of a Western vibe, or as far as making them wear this full-blown jumpsuit to give it a dystopian sci-fi flavor. What I recognized was color palette would really push this film to the next level. Now, if you were to take a look at what her wardrobe would feel like if it was maybe yellow or if it was brown, it probably wouldn't stand out as much. And I actually used Midjourney to create reference frames to know if this was going to work. If you look at all of your favorite films, a quarter of the frame is taken up by the main character, minimum. And over half of your character is taken up by wardrobe. So if you think about it, a third of your film is wardrobe. And if you can't afford production design, wardrobe goes a really long way. And with wardrobe, what I would attach to that is also props.
It's for kids, so it's pretty
So
cool.
if you want to take your wardrobe to the next level, the next thing to build out on a character outside of what they would wear is what they would carry. And a good example of this would be Indiana Jones. So Indiana Jones would be nothing if it wasn't for his hat, his nice button up, obviously the thirst trap being Harrison Ford, and his whip that he carries around. And those elements are the things that make a character interesting. It tells a story without having to tell the story.
It's like I give Jackie a high and then I cut to like, shut the fuck up!
We had this like dummy body that I had, so I bought a couple more of these red jumpsuits, spent I think in total about $100 on these red jumpsuits, and I made one that was just a body double so we could just throw it into the background of shots.
Come on, babe. Come on.
I thought it was really good.
She's into her things again.
It's really difficult.
So one of the big things to always be cognizant of is directing on a tight timeline. The gun is to your head and your brain starts to go fuzzy in these moments. Like remember when we were shooting this, I'm thinking about
I'm just gonna grab these shots of
cinematography,
Jackie. So
making
Jackie,
sure
we'll just
everyone's
go over here.
comfortable, story beats, how the sound is gonna go, how I should be doing the BTS, where the scene should be taking place, and also how comfortable I am. So when you're doing these solo shoots, while exciting because you can work faster, you can do the ideas that you wanna do right away, the consequence to them is wearing 5,000 hats all at once.
What am I looking at and where am I going?
You've heard like confrontation happen, and so you're kind of
it.
going towards where you heard it.
Okay.
So just I would head towards that direction.
Filmmaking is overwhelming. It's expensive and time-consuming and feels like you need a million connections just to get anywhere. Not to mention, once you've gotten past all the gatekeepers, you also need one of the most important things, a dynamic story that sells. But what if there was a way around all of this? What if filmmaking could be easier? After decades of making films, I realized there's a cheat code that no one is talking about. It's a simple model that skips past the industry bullshit and cuts to the basics of how to make a good film that people want to watch. I've taken what works with Hollywood, YouTube, and documentaries and blended into one style: hybrid filmmaking. Hybrid is how I've made award-winning feature films, ambitious shorts starring friends and Hollywood actors, and propelled passion projects I could have only dreamed of making.
We're gonna be talking about how to become a Swiss Army knife filmmaker. So you'll make a film from start to finish on the budget of under $100 with just tools and resources around you. You guys can sign up to a link below. This will get you access to the course whenever it first drops. It's gonna be a super fun 4 weeks. We're gonna be doing it live and interactive throughout this boot camp, and I promise you, if you follow by every single step, you will have a short film that you can submit to festivals in the span of 1 month.
Every time we go out to film something, it doesn't matter how many times I've filmed it, every time we go out, I get like this big insecurity that I'm just like some high school filmmaker going out and doesn't know what they're doing and really has never done this before, and that it's never gonna come together. Every single time.
That's so nice, because so do I.
Really?
The last thing you want is to leave a location one shot short of a full scene. What that can do is make you procrastinate even finishing the film. Far too many films do I have just left on a hard drive because we didn't go and just shoot that final scene that we needed or that final shot. Trust me, it is so hard to get everyone back on set to shoot something.
Really cool.
Are you?
Yeah.
Why don't we bring your jacket?
As a leader on a set, You're always going to be thinking about the vision, the story, how is the film going to come together, but you are a people person. This is the huge part of it. While technical is a huge element, you're going to be worrying about frame and audio and the 10 other jobs you're working on. The most important thing is that those characters on screen are seen and heard before the camera presses record, because if they're not, you're not going to get a quality product, and you might not even be able to finish your day properly.
Oh, Gigi.
It's believable.
Charlie's Angels.
Don't overcomplicate something that doesn't need to be complicated. Indie filmmakers now, we have so many tools and resources to actually overcomplicate the process. You could shoot an entire thing from a gimbal that's flying and swooping around, or getting drone shots, or getting handheld, then going to POV, shooting it on a GoPro. But if we back off and look at some of our favorite films in recent years, or even in a long time, it is those that stripped down and went to the simplistic concepts of just shooting stories around character growth, and then building the world around that.
In the snow, we die.
So as an actor working, what is something a director could say to you to get you into the space?
It's the basic stuff. It's the slow down, speed up, more like faster pace. And then if you're changing the emotional tone, then like a fast, like imagine you just got broken up with, they were the love of your life, and they cheated on you. Like a quick, go there, like kind of thing.
Right.
Rather than, like I don't need to build out an entire story arc, especially because if you're trying to build out a whole story arc or someone's talking to you too much, you're getting pulled out of the emotion that's already there.
And there's something, when you work with someone for a long enough time, you get a shorthand. So that meaning you have a way of communicating with that person that can be really refined. And this is where rehearsals, this is where just getting to know that person you're working with can tremendously speed up the process of your project. When you're doing day one and maybe you've never worked with each other, you might be using longer words and bigger lingo to try and communicate with them. But after a couple days working with a person, or let's say you're working with your partner or best friend, that shorthand is already going to exist.
A really easy way to get actors just to go there is just to let them go 5 times in a row without stopping them.
Right,
just like,
we did
go,
that on Clementine.
Go, yeah.
Yeah, we ripped through a scene. There was like a
multiple
really
times.
emotional scene, and it was like,
Yeah.
okay, let's do it again, let's do it
Yeah.
again, let's do it again.
Because each time you're like pulling up that emotion a little bit more, and so in like 5 takes, you will, like, that explosion will happen that you're looking for.
That's the logic that Fincher has. It's, you know, why would you spend all this money and time to get to this space and just do it once? And he says that the actors do the best on their 20th and 30th take because it becomes so second nature.
Go on, I'm on the ship. Okay.
Yeah, like I was just like rock and roll. I was like fucking like game over, man. It was like such a big one. It's like just it's like all right.
What is a mindset that really helps you? Because this was a very difficult shoot. You're in the cold, you're in the snow, you're also working with your partner. Hey, and we didn't break up during it, which is great.
Like, you just have to compartmentalize. Like, no matter who it is, if it's your partner or a director, or you are basically there to do exactly as they say. And yeah, you can have a voice, but especially in situations like this, you just have to take your emotion out of it. And if something does come up, you have to use it in the scene to get through it and keep moving.
This looks like someone was like bleeding gummy bears.
It does. Bleeding gummy bears. That sounds delicious.
One of the key traits that I always love to do is amplifying a film through low budget tactics. I call them parlor tricks. And another parlor trick is makeup effects. So this is just corn syrup that's like with 5,000 different colors in it, which would make black. And it looked great on camera. It worked with that stark white contrast. And I think a good trick for cheap filmmaking is stark imagery that creates a lot of dialogue, and what that can be is important, like a poppy wardrobe, props that stand out like a bow and arrow, and effects, whether it's a wound or black eye, a piece of tape over someone's nose to say that they're injured, or in this case, it's black goo coming out of her mouth. And you can just say a lot from what is on a character versus what is around a character. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is episode 1 and 2 of Echoes. Jackie and I are very excited to explore this film and show you guys the film as it comes out.